Join us for a heartwarming tale of Alana Parker, a young woman who loses everything when her candy shop burns down, only to discover an unexpected inheritance that leads her to Santa Aurora Farm. There, amidst apple orchards and healing soil, she finds not only her family's hidden past, but perhaps a chance at love with the farm's owner, Mateus Cordero. Before we begin this story, comment below where you're watching from. The smell of burnt sugar and charred wood still clung to Alana's clothes as she stood across the street, watching firefighters finish putting out the last of the flames. Her candy shop, Sweet Memories, had been reduced to blackened walls and melted displays. 3 years of hard work gone in a matter of hours. "I'm so sorry, Miss Parker," said the fire chief, removing his helmet. "Looks like it started with an electrical issue in the back room. There wasn't much we could do by the time someone called it in." Alana nodded, her throat too tight to speak. At 25, she had poured everything into this place, her savings, her dreams, and countless sleepless nights, perfecting recipes that customers drove for hours to taste. Now it was all ashes. Her phone rang. It was her landlord, probably, calling about the rent she was already 2 weeks late on. She let it go to voicemail, one disaster at a time. "Do you have someone to stay with?" the chief asked. "I'll be fine," she lied, forcing a smile. "Thank you for trying." Walking back to her apartment, Alana tried to count her blessings, but the list was getting shorter by the day. No insurance to cover a rebuild, 3 months behind on her business loan, and now no income at all. The eviction notice taped to her apartment door wasn't even a surprise, just the next logical step in her life falling apart. Inside, she slid down against the door until she hit the floor, letting the tears come freely for the first time. Her cat Pepper rubbed against her leg, offering what comfort he could. "It's just you and me now, buddy," she whispered, scratching behind his ears. "And I have no idea what we're going to do." The phone rang again. This time, it wasn't her landlord, but Father Michael from St. Thomas Church. Her mother had been devoted to the parish before she died when Alana was only 8. The priest had kept in touch over the years, becoming something of a surrogate father after Alana's real dad walked out of her life. "Alana? I just heard about the shop. I'm so sorry." "Thanks, Father," she said, wiping her eyes. "I guess God has a strange way of testing people. Sometimes the path forward isn't clear until we've lost our way," he said gently. "Listen, I hate to add to your burden, but there's something else you should know. It's about your father." Alana's grip tightened on the phone. "What about him?" "He passed away last week. Heart attack. The news should have hurt more than it did. Instead, Alana felt oddly numb. William Parker had left when she was 16, disappearing without so much as a goodbye. 9 years of silence had turned him into a stranger. Did he ever ask about me? The question escaped before she could stop it. Father Michael's pause said everything. "I'm afraid not, child. But he did leave some papers with his attorney. Nothing of value from what I understand." "Of course not, just one more dead end. There's something else," the priest continued. "I may have found you a temporary solution, a place to stay and work while you figure things out. I'm not looking for charity. It's not charity, it's a job, hard work but honest. I know the owner of Santa Aurora Farm. They need help with general maintenance and field work, room and board included." "A farm?" Alana had never even kept a houseplant alive before Pepper. "Father, I don't know the first thing about farming. You're a quick learner, and right now you need breathing room. This could give you that." She looked around the apartment she'd be losing anyway. What choice did she have? When would I start? "The bus leaves tomorrow morning. I'll text you the details." After hanging up, Alana began packing what little she could take. Clothes, a few. Photos and the last remaining box of her mother's things. Everything else would have to be left behind. As she folded a sweater, a business card fell from the pocket. James Thornton, attorney at law. Father Michael had mentioned her dad left papers with his lawyer. Maybe there was something, anything that might explain why he left, why he never came back. The law office was small and cramped, smelling of old books and coffee. Mr. Thornton, a balding man with kind eyes, seemed surprised by her visit. "Miss Parker, I was going to contact you once the estate was settled." "Estate?" "My father had an estate." The lawyer shuffled awkwardly. Just some personal effects. A watch, some books, nothing of significant value. No letter, no message for me? I'm afraid not. Of course not. Even in death, William Parker had nothing to say to his daughter. However, Thornton continued, there was something odd in his papers. A deed mention. Something about land he once owned near Millfield. It's probably nothing, the document is incomplete, but if you're interested, I could look into it. Don't bother, Alana said, suddenly exhausted. I'm leaving town tomorrow anyway. The bus. Ride to Millfield took nearly 4 hours. Alana spent most of it staring out the window, watching as crowded city streets gave way to rolling countryside. Pepper, secured in a carrier on her lap, had finally stopped meowing in protest. When they arrived at the dusty bus stop, only a handful of passengers got off. The town was small, just a main street with basic necessities, grocery store, hardware shop, diner, and a church whose steeple dominated the skyline. Alana Parker? She turned to see a man in his 60s leaning against an old pickup truck, his weathered face crinkled into a smile beneath a well-worn baseball cap. I'm Joe, from Santa Aurora. Father Michael called ahead. The drive to the farm took 20 minutes down winding country roads. Joe filled the silence with talk about the weather, the upcoming harvest, and how the young boss was trying new methods this season. He's got ideas, that one. Not like his uncle was, set in his ways. Mateus listens to people. Alana barely heard, him too busy wondering what she'd gotten herself into. The land opened up before them, acres of green fields bordered by distant hills. When they turned onto a long dirt driveway, she got her first glimpse of Santa Aurora Farm. It was larger than she'd expected. A 2-story farmhouse painted white with green shutters stood next to a big red barn. Beyond them lay fields in various stages of growth, some with workers bent over rows of plants. Home sweet home, Joe said, parking near a smaller building, off to the side. This here's the workers' quarters, nothing fancy but clean and dry. Alana's room was simple, twin bed, dresser, small desk, and a window overlooking the fields. The bathroom was shared with 3 other female workers. We start at sunrise, Joe explained. Breakfast at 5:30 in the common room. Manager will assign you duties after. Left alone, Alana set up Pepper's litter box and food bowls. Not exactly. The penthouse is it, she murmured, letting the cat explore their new home. She unpacked quickly, then stepped outside to get her bearings. The air smelled different here, clean and rich with earth and growing things. In the distance, she could see someone standing at the edge of a field, tall and still, surveying the land like a captain assessing the sea. She didn't realize she was staring until he turned, as if sensing her gaze. Even from this distance, their eyes met, and Alana felt an unexpected jolt of recognition, though she was certain they'd never met. He raised a hand in greeting. After a moment's hesitation, she did the same. That night, exhausted from travel and emotion, Alana slept better than she had in weeks. No dreams of fire or unpaid bills, just darkness and, strangely, peace. Morning came too soon. At breakfast, she met her fellow workers, mostly seasonal employees, who treated her with casual friendliness. They were used to new faces coming and going. Rosa, a woman in her 50s who managed the household staff, gave Alana a quick tour and her first assignment, helping in the greenhouse with delicate seedlings that needed transplanting. These babies need gentle hands, Rosa explained, and patience, good things to learn early. The work was tedious, but oddly satisfying. Hours passed as Alana carefully moved tiny plants to larger pots, making sure the roots were well covered and watered. By lunchtime, her back ached and her fingernails were rimmed with dirt, but she felt a quiet accomplishment. It was while eating a sandwich under a tree that she saw him again, the man from yesterday. He was walking with Joe, deep in conversation. Up close, she could see he was younger than she'd first thought, probably late 20s, with dark hair that curled slightly at the ends. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing tanned forearms and a simple watch, not what she'd expected from the farm owner. "That's him," whispered Eleanor, one of the kitchen workers who joined her for lunch. "That's Mateus Cordero." "The boss?" Alana asked. Eleanor nodded. "He took over when his uncle died last year. Everyone thought he'd sell the place. He went to some fancy college for business, but he came back instead. Works harder than most of the hired help. As if hearing his name, Matthias glanced their way. This time he changed direction, walking toward them with purposeful strides. "New hire?" he asked without preamble. Alana stood, brushing crumbs from her jeans. "Yes, Alana Parker. Father Michael's friend." It wasn't a question. His eyes were. Serious, taking her measure. "How are you finding Santa Aurora?" "It's beautiful," she admitted. "Different from what I'm used to." "City girl?" "Until yesterday." Something like amusement flickered across his features. "Well, the land has a way of teaching what you need to know, if you're willing to listen." Before she could respond, Joe called him over to deal with some issue at the barn. "Nice to meet you, Miss Parker," Matthias said, already turning away. "Welcome to Santa Aurora." The days fell into a rhythm. Wake before dawn, work until dusk, fall. Into bed, exhausted but somehow fulfilled. Alana's city soft hands grew calluses, her skin darkened under the sun. And slowly, without her noticing, the constant weight of anxiety began to lift. She was assigned to different areas each day: greenhouse, chicken coop, vegetable garden. She made mistakes, of course, released the chickens in the wrong order, overwatered the tomato plants, but no one yelled or made her feel incompetent. They simply showed her how to do better next time. Matthias was a constant presence, though rarely close. She would spot him across the fields, inspecting crops or repairing equipment. Sometimes their eyes would meet briefly before one of them looked away. He was polite when they crossed paths, but never sought her out, until the storm came. It hit in the night, a vicious downpour that flooded parts of the lower fields and damaged hundreds of seedlings. Everyone was called to help save what could be rescued. Alana found herself kneeling in mud, carefully replanting tiny shoots that had been uprooted by the water. The rain had stopped, but the ground was so wet that water seeped through her jeans within minutes. "You need to space them further apart," came a voice behind her. Matthias knelt beside her, his own knees sinking into the mud. "Like this," he demonstrated, creating a small mound before placing the seedling into it. "Gives them a better chance if more rain comes." They worked side by side for nearly an hour, saying little but establishing a rhythm. He would prepare the mounds, she would place the plants. His hands were strong but gentle with the fragile shoots. "You're good at this," he said finally. "Most people from the city treat plants like furniture, decorative but not alive." "My mother loved gardening," Alana admitted. "She used to say every growing thing deserves respect." Smart woman. She was. Matthias looked at her then, really looked at her as if seeing past the mud and sweat to something underneath. "You care about them. These plants. I've watched you with the animals too. You're kind even when no one's looking." Embarrassed by his scrutiny, Alana focused on the seedling in her hands. "They're innocent. They deserve care." They fell silent again. When they'd finished the row, Matthias stood, offering her a hand up. His grip was firm, warm despite the cool air. "You cuida da terra como se ela fosse sua," he said almost to himself. "What does that mean?" "You care for the land as if it were yours." Looking at the field they'd just saved, at the tender plants, now standing upright again, Alana felt something stir inside her, a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced in years. "Because it's all I have left," she replied softly. His eyes widened slightly, but before he could respond, the farm manager called him away to deal with a broken irrigation pump. That night, as Alana washed the day's dirt from her skin, she thought about the strange moment they'd shared. Why had her words affected him that way? And why did she feel like she'd said something more significant than she meant to? Pepper curled against her side as she drifted off to sleep. Dreams filled with growing things and dark eyes that seemed to see right through her. She didn't know yet that those same eyes were still awake, staring at an old photograph of a young woman standing in front of the farmhouse holding a baby. Or that Matthias was looking through papers containing a name that would soon change everything: William Parker. The truth was waiting, buried like a seed, and like all seeds in fertile ground, it would soon break through to the light. 2 weeks passed, and Santa Aurora Farm began to feel less like a temporary shelter and more like a place Alana might belong. Her routine had become familiar, Up before the sun, hands in soil all day, evening meals with the other workers sharing stories and laughter. Rosa had taken her under her wing, teaching Alana the rhythm of farm life. "You're a natural," the older woman said one evening as they prepared dinner together. "Some people fight against the land, you work with it." "I never thought I'd enjoy this kind of work," Alana admitted, chopping vegetables with newfound skill. "Back in the city, I couldn't even keep my mint plants alive in the windowsill." "Different soil, different heart," Rosa said with a knowing smile. "Sometimes we need to be planted somewhere new to grow properly." Mateus had been scarce since the day of the storm. He'd left for a business trip the following morning and had only returned yesterday. Alana told herself it was ridiculous to miss someone she barely knew, yet she'd found herself watching the driveway each evening, waiting for his truck to return. When it finally did, she'd quickly turned away, embarrassed by how her heart had sped up at the sight of him. "The boss is back," Eleanor had whispered, nudging Alana playfully. "And looking for you, I think." "Don't be silly," Alana had replied, though she couldn't help glancing toward the farmhouse where Mateus had disappeared. This morning, Joe had given her a new assignment, clearing the overgrown flower beds around the main house. "Boss's orders," he'd said with a wink. "Says you've got a way with delicate things." Now, kneeling in front of the sprawling farmhouse, Alana carefully separated weeds from forgotten perennials. The flower beds had once been beautiful, she could tell, but had been neglected for some time. "My aunt loved those flowers." She turned to find Mateus standing on the porch, coffee mug in hand, watching her work. The morning sun caught in his dark hair, highlighting strands of chestnut brown. "They've been left alone too long," she replied, sitting back on her heels. "But they're still alive under all these weeds. Strong roots." He came down the steps and crouched beside her, setting his mug on the ground. His fingers brushed against a small purple bloom that had managed to push through the tangle. "Aunt Maria planted these when I was a boy. She said every home needs beauty, not just function." A shadow passed over his face. "After she died, Uncle Roberto let everything go. The flowers, the old orchard, the workers' housing. He focused only on what made money." "But you're different," Alana observed. His eyes met hers, searching. "How? Would you know that?" "The workers talk. They say you've been making changes, good ones." A smile pulled at the corner of his mouth. "Do they also say I'm stubborn and push too hard?" "That too," she admitted, returning his smile. He laughed then, a warm sound that seemed to surprise even him. "Well, at least they're honest." He reached over and gently pulled a weed she'd missed. "These flower beds were my first project when I took over. But there's been so much to fix I never got around to finishing." "I can help," Alana offered, then added quickly, "I mean, if you want. I'd like that." He stood, brushing dirt from his knees. "There's something else I wanted to ask you about." Her heart quickened. "Yes?" "Joe says you have experience making specialty foods, that you owned a shop." Not what she'd expected. "I did. Sweet memories, handmade candies and chocolates. We're having a harvest festival next month. Local businesses, selling goods, music, that sort of thing. We always offer samples of what the farm produces, but I thought maybe you could help create something special, if you're interested." The unexpected invitation to create again, to use the skills she thought she'd left behind, left Alana momentarily speechless. Mateus misread her silence. "It's okay if you'd rather not. I know you're here to start fresh." "No, I mean, yes, I'd love to." Her enthusiasm surprised her. "I could make honey caramels with your farm honey or chocolate-dipped fruits from the orchard." His face brightened. "Perfect. The kitchen in the main house is better equipped. You can use it whenever. You'd like to experiment?" He glanced at his watch. "I should let you get back to work. I have a meeting with the accountant at 10. As he walked away, Alana called after him. "Mateus?" He turned. "Thank you for trusting me with this." Something flickered in his eyes, an emotion she couldn't quite name. "You're welcome, Alana." For the rest of the morning, Alana worked with renewed energy, clearing years of neglect from the flower beds. By lunchtime, she'd uncovered dozens of perennials gasping for sunlight. She was so absorbed in her task that she didn't notice the sleek black car coming up the driveway until it stopped right in front of the house. A woman stepped out, tall, impeccably dressed in a cream suit that probably cost more than Alana had made in a month at her candy shop. "Excuse me," the woman called, her heels clicking on the pavement as she approached. "Is Mateus around?" Alana stood, uncomfortably aware of her dirt-stained clothes and messy hair. "He's in a meeting. Can I help you?" The woman gave Alana a cool once-over. "I doubt it. I'm Victoria Harrington. Mateus will want to see me." Before Alana could respond, the front door opened and Mateus emerged, followed by an older man carrying a briefcase. His face registered surprise at the sight of Victoria. "Vic, what are you doing here?" "Surprise visit," she said, moving past Alana as if she were part of the landscaping. "Daddy wanted me to check how the investment opportunities are coming along." She reached him and placed a manicured hand on his arm, kissing his cheek. "You've been ignoring my calls." "I've been busy," he replied, though he didn't push her away. "Victoria, this is Alana Parker, one of our new workers. Alana, this is Victoria Harrington, a friend from college." The pause before friend spoke volumes. Victoria barely glanced at Alana. "Charmed, I'm sure. Mateus, can we talk privately? I've made lunch reservations in town." Mateus hesitated, looking between the two women. "I still have work to do here." "It's the new French place you mentioned wanting to try," Victoria pressed. "Please, for old time's sake?" Something in his expression shifted. "Fine, let me grab my jacket." To Alana, he added, "The flower beds look great. Feel free to use any tools you need from the shed." As they drove away, Alana felt a heaviness settle in her chest. Of course, someone like Mateus would have someone like Victoria in his life. They made sense together, both educated, wealthy, sophisticated. What had she been thinking? She attacked the weeds with renewed vigor, channeling her frustration into physical labor. "Don't mind, Miss High and Mighty," came Rosa's voice from behind her. The housekeeper had appeared with a glass of iced tea. She comes around whenever she remembers Mateus exists. "They seem close," Alana said, accepting the drink gratefully. Rosa snorted. "Their families have been pushing them together since they were teenagers. Her daddy owns half the businesses in the county and wants to add this farm to his collection. Are they engaged?" Not for lack of trying on her part. Rosa sat on the porch step, patting the spot beside her. "But our Mateus, he's got his own. Mind always has." Alana joined her, sipping the sweet tea. "She's beautiful. On the outside, maybe." Rosa's eyes twinkled knowingly. "You know, in all the years Victoria's been coming around, I've never once seen her put her hands in the dirt. Not once." They shared a smile at that, and Alana felt marginally better. Later that afternoon, Alana decided to explore the farm kitchen to plan for the Harvest Festival treats. The main house was grand but homey. Hardwood floors, comfortable furniture, family photos lining the walls. The kitchen was a chef's dream, modern appliances alongside vintage charm. As she examined the pantry, she heard the front door open and close. "Rosa?" Mateus called. "Are you still here?" "It's Alana," she answered, stepping out of the pantry. "Rosa went to town for groceries. I was just looking at the kitchen for the festival project." He looked tired, his earlier cheerfulness dimmed. "Find everything you need?" "More than enough. It's an amazing kitchen. My aunt's domain. She loved to cook." He loosened his tie and slumped onto a kitchen stool. "Sorry about earlier. Victoria doesn't always call before showing up." "No need to apologize." "She seems nice." Mateus raised an eyebrow. "You're a terrible liar, Alana Parker." She laughed despite herself. "Okay, she's a bit intimidating." "She can be." He ran a hand through his hair. "We dated in college. Her father is an important business contact. It's complicated." Alana nodded, trying to ignore the flutter in her stomach at the confirmation that Victoria was indeed more than a friend. Relationships usually are. Speaking from experience. "Not really," she admitted. "I've been too busy working to have much of a love life. The candy shop was my baby." A shadow crossed his face at the mention of the shop. "Father Michael said you lost everything in a fire. That must have been devastating." "It was." She traced a pattern on the kitchen counter. 3 years of my life gone overnight, And then my father died the same week. I'm sorry. Don't be, we weren't close. He left when I was 16, never looked back. Mateus was quiet for a moment. My father wasn't around much either, always traveling for business, leaving Uncle Roberto to run things here. When he did visit, it was just to criticize how everything was being managed. Is he still alive? Yes, living in Europe with wife number 3, sends birthday cards sometimes. His tone was light, but Alana recognized the hurt underneath. It mirrored her own. Their eyes met across the kitchen, and for a moment, Alana felt as if he could see straight through to her soul, all her fears and hopes laid bare. The moment was broken by Rosa, bustling in with grocery bags. Don't just sit there, young man. Help an old woman with these heavy bags. Mateus jumped up, the serious mood dispelled. Yes, ma'am. Right away, ma'am. As they unpacked groceries together, laughing at Rosa's stories about town gossip, Alana felt a warmth spreading through her chest. This was what a home should feel like. The next morning, Joe approached Alana with a concerned expression. Boss wants to see you in his office, right away. Her stomach dropped. Had she done something wrong? Was she being let go? Mateus's office was in a corner of the farmhouse overlooking the fields. When she knocked on the open door, he was on the phone, frowning at something on his computer screen. Come in, he mouthed, gesturing to a chair. Yes, Mr. Thornton, she's working here. Has been for almost 3 weeks now. I understand. Yes, that's correct. Alana stiffened at the name. Thornton, her father's lawyer. Why was Mateus talking to him? She's actually here now, Mateus continued, his eyes meeting hers. Would you like to speak with her? I see. Yes, I'll let her know. Thank you. He hung up, his expression unreadable. That was James Thornton, your father's attorney. I know who he is, Alana replied, her voice tight. Why are you talking to him? Mateus leaned back in his chair as if searching for the right words. When Father Michael told me your name, Alana Parker, it sounded familiar. I couldn't place it until I saw some old papers my uncle left. What papers? He opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. These contained the original deed to Santa Aurora Farm, from 30 years ago. He slid a document toward her. Look at the names. Alana's hands trembled as she read. Roberto Cordero and William Parker, joint owners. William Parker, her father. I don't understand, she whispered. Your father and my uncle were business partners. They bought this land together when they were young men. Mateus's voice was gentle. Your father sold his half to my uncle, 23. Years ago, after my mother died, Alana finished, the pieces falling into place. But why would he never tell me? I'm not sure, but there's more. Mateus pushed another document toward her. This is my uncle's will. There's a clause about the daughter of Maria Oliveira, former housekeeper. My mother was a housekeeper here? The revelation hit Alana like a physical blow. But her name was Maria Parker. Oliveira was her maiden name. According to Rosa, who's worked here forever, your mother and father met when he came to visit his investment. She worked in this house. My aunt and uncle loved her like family. Alana tried to process this flood of information, all those years growing up in the city, never knowing her family had a connection to this place. What does the will say about me? Mateus took a deep breath. My uncle set aside a parcel of land, 50 acres on the east side, including the old cottage and orchard. He left it to Maria's daughter, if she could ever be found. The room seemed to spin. Are you saying... Part of Santa Aurora, rightfully, belongs to you, Alana. Has all along. She stared at him, searching for any sign of deception. How long have you known this? I suspected when I first heard your name. I confirmed it last week during my trip. That's why I called Thornton. So when you asked me to help with the festival, to use the kitchen, was that because you felt sorry for me? Because you knew I was entitled to part of your farm? No. Mateus stood, circling the desk to kneel beside her chair. I asked because you're talented, because you belong here. Do I? Anger flared suddenly. Or am I just a legal obligation you've been managing? Poor Alana lost everything. Doesn't even know she owns land. Better be nice. To her, that's not fair, isn't it? You've known for days, Mateus. You watched me working in the fields. sleeping in the workers' quarters, all while knowing I owned part of this place. I was trying to find the right time. When? After the festival? After Victoria convinced you to buy me out? Or were you hoping I'd just sign over my claim without realizing what it was worth? Hurt flashed across his face. Is that what you think of me? Alana stood, needing to escape the intensity of his gaze. I don't know what to think anymore. Everything I thought I knew has just been turned upside down. Alana, please. I need time to process this. She backed toward the door. Just leave me alone for now. She fled the office, tears blurring her vision. Outside, she ran past the flower beds she'd so carefully tended, past the fields where she'd begun to heal, straight to the workers' quarters where Pepper waited. The cat meowed in concern as Alana collapsed onto her bed, sobs racking her body. She cried for her mother, who had once walked these same grounds, for her father, who had kept this connection hidden, even in death, and for herself, because just when she'd started to fall in love with both a place and a man, she discovered that neither might be what they seemed. In the farmhouse, Mateus stood at his office window, watching her run away. He picked up a photo from his desk, a young Maria Oliveira holding baby Alana, standing in front of the cottage that now belonged to her daughter. I've made a mess of this, haven't I? He whispered to the smiling woman in the picture. How do I fix it? The photo offered no answers, but somewhere in his heart, Mateus knew what he had to do, even if it meant losing everything he cared about. 3 days had passed since the revelation in Mateus's office, and Alana had barely left her room except for meals. Joe had told her to take some time off, clearly at Mateus's instruction. She'd spent hours staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. Her mother had worked in this very place. Her father had once owned half of Santa Aurora, and now a piece of it belonged to her. On the morning of the 4th day, a soft knock came at her door. Expecting Rosa or Eleanor, she was surprised to find James Thornton, her father's attorney, standing there with his briefcase. Miss Parker, he said, nodding formally. May I come in? I believe we have matters to discuss. She stepped aside wordlessly, allowing him to enter the small room. Pepper eyed the visitor warily from his perch on the windowsill. Mr. Cordero informed me of your situation, Thornton said, opening his briefcase on her desk. I should have made the connection sooner when you visited my office. For that I apologize. It's not your fault, Alana replied, sitting on the edge of her bed. You couldn't have known where I'd end up. Perhaps not, but your father did leave instructions. This caught her attention. What do you mean? Thornton removed a sealed envelope. This was to be delivered to you only if you ever came to Santa Aurora Farm. William was very specific about that condition. With trembling hands, Alana took the envelope. Her name was written on the front in handwriting she barely remembered. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Alana, if you're reading this, you found your way back to Santa Aurora. I always hoped. You would, though I had no right to expect it. By now you know that I once owned part of this land with Roberto. What you don't know is why I sold it and why we left. Your mother loved Santa Aurora more than anywhere in the world. She was happiest there among the flowers and orchards. When she got sick, she made me promise to bring you back someday, to show you where she'd been happiest. I failed her. After she died, I couldn't bear to stay. The memories were too painful. Roberto offered to buy my half, and I took the money and ran. Took you away from the only other family you had. It was selfish. I was drowning in grief and debt. By the time I realized my mistake, too many years had passed. You were building your own life, and I was too ashamed to intrude. Roberto promised me that part of the land would always be yours if you ever returned. The cottage was your mother's favorite place. She planted every tree in that orchard. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I needed you. To know that your mother loved that land and she loved you more than anything in this world. Dad tears blurred Alana's vision as she finished reading. All these years, she'd thought her father had simply abandoned her. Never once had she considered, he might have been running from grief too overwhelming to bear. There's more, Thornton said quietly, placing a small wooden box on the desk. He wanted you to have this as well. Inside the box lay a simple gold locket on a delicate chain. When Alana opened it, she found a tiny photograph of her mother, smiling in front of a cottage surrounded by apple trees. "The deed to your portion of Santa Aurora is here," Thornton continued, presenting another document. 50 acres, including the orchard cottage and surrounding land. It needs your signature to finalize the transfer. Alana stared at the paper, still processing her father's words. "I need some time to think." "Of course." Thornton gathered his things. "I'll be in town until tomorrow evening. You can reach me at this number when you've decided." He handed her a business card and moved toward the door. "For what it's worth, Miss Parker, your father regretted many things, but he was proud of the woman you became." After the lawyer left, Alana sat motionless, the locket clutched in her hand. Outside her window, she could see workers moving through the fields. Santa Aurora continued its rhythm regardless of her personal turmoil. Finally, she tucked the letter and locket into her pocket and stepped outside. She needed to see this cottage, this place her mother had loved so much. She found Joe near the equipment shed. "I need directions to the old orchard cottage," she said without preamble. His weathered face softened. "East side of the property. Follow the dirt road past the big oak, take the fork to the right, about a 20-minute walk." He paused. "It hasn't been used in years. Might be in rough shape." "I still want to see it." Joe nodded, understanding, in his eyes. "Take all the time you need." The walk gave Alana time to think. With each step away from the main farm buildings, the land grew more wild, more secluded. When she reached the fork in the road, she found a weathered sign pointing, "Right, Orchard Cottage." Her mother had walked this path, her father too when they were young and in love, before grief and loss tore them apart. The cottage appeared suddenly around a bend, a small stone building with a red door, surrounded by apple trees heavy with fruit. Wildflowers had overtaken what was once probably a garden, and ivy climbed one wall. The roof seemed intact, though the windows were dusty. Alana approached slowly, feeling as if she were walking into a dream. When she reached the door, she found it unlocked. The hinges creaked as she pushed it open. Inside, time seemed suspended. Simple wooden furniture was draped with sheets to protect from dust. Shelves lined one wall, still holding books and knickknacks. A stone fireplace dominated the living area. Moving through the rooms, Alana felt her mother's presence everywhere, in the hand-stitched curtains, in the arrangement of the kitchen, in the small details that had survived the years, in what was, once the bedroom. She found a mural painted on the wall beside a window, a colorful garden scene with butterflies and birds. At the bottom, in small letters, "For baby Alana with love." Her knees buckled. She sat on the edge of the bed, overcome. This had been her first home, the place where her mother had held her, sung to her, loved her. She didn't know how long she sat there before she heard footsteps on the porch. Through the window, she saw Mateus standing outside, uncertainty written across his face. He knocked gently on the open door. "Joe told me where you went," he said. "I can leave if you want to be alone." She should still be angry with him. She wanted to be. But sitting in this place, holding her mother's locket, Alana couldn't summon the energy for anger. "It's okay," she said. "You can come in." He entered cautiously, looking around with curiosity. "I've never actually been inside before. Uncle Roberto always kept it locked." "For me," Alana whispered. "He was keeping it for me." Mateus nodded, remaining by the door. "Rosa told me your mother painted that mural. She said Maria was always creating beautiful things. Did you know I was born here?" "In this cottage?" "No, I didn't." His voice was soft. "Rosa mentioned your family lived in the worker housing at first, but I didn't know about the cottage." Alana touched the locket at her throat. "My father left me a letter. He said my mother loved this place more than anywhere else in the world." "Alana," Mateus began, taking a step toward her, "I need to apologize. I should have told you about your connection to Santa Aurora as soon as I suspected it." "Why didn't you?" He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she now recognized as his way of gathering thoughts. "At first I wasn't sure. The name Parker is common enough. Then, when I became certain, I was afraid." "Of what?" "That you'd think everything. Me asking you to help with the festival, our conversations, our connection. was because I felt obligated. Or worse, that I was trying to manipulate you somehow. Were you? No. His eyes met hers, earnest and clear. From the first day I saw you replanting those seedlings after the storm, I felt something I've never felt before. The way you care for things, the way you see beauty where others see only work to be done. It has nothing to do with land or inheritance. Alana wanted to believe him. Part of her already did, but another part, the part that had been abandoned before, remained cautious. "What about Victoria?" she asked. A shadow crossed his face. "Victoria. And I have history. Our families have expectations, but we want different things from life. What do you want?" The question hung in the air between them. Mateus took another step closer. "I want Santa Aurora to thrive. I want to build something meaningful here." He hesitated. "And I was starting to hope that maybe you might want to build it with me." Before Alana could respond, the sound of a car engine broke the moment. Through the window, they saw a sleek black Mercedes coming up the overgrown cottage drive. "Who knew you were here?" Alana asked. "No one. I walked from the main house." Mateus moved to the window, frowning. "It's Victoria, and my lawyer, Andrew Clark." The car stopped, and Victoria emerged, impeccably dressed as always. She spotted them through the window and waved, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Mateus, there you are. Joe said we might find you out here." She strode toward the cottage, Andrew following with a briefcase. "We have wonderful news." Mateus stepped onto the porch to meet them, Alana following reluctantly. "Victoria, this isn't a good time," he said firmly. Victoria ignored him, her gaze fixed on Alana. "So this is the mysterious heir." Her tone was sugar-sweet with an edge underneath. "I'm so glad we found you both together. It makes things so much more efficient." "What are you talking about?" Mateus demanded. Andrew stepped forward, opening his briefcase. "Mr. Cordero, I've prepared an offer for Miss Parker regarding her portion of the property." "An offer?" Alana repeated, confused. Victoria's smile widened. "Daddy thinks this cottage and orchard would make the perfect site for a boutique hotel and spa. We're prepared to offer significantly above market value for the 50 acres. Mateus's face darkened. "You went behind my back to Harrington Development?" "Don't be dramatic, darling," Victoria said, touching his arm. "I'm helping you solve a problem. You've been saying cash flow is tight for expansion. This way everyone wins." Andrew held out a document. "Miss Parker, if you'll just review this offer." "She just found out about her inheritance," Mateus interrupted. "This is completely inappropriate. Business waits for no one," Victoria replied smoothly. "Besides, what use does she have for 50 acres of land? She's a candy maker from the city." She turned to Alana with false sympathy. "This is a generous offer. You could restart your business, buy a proper home. Isn't that better than playing farmer?" Alana felt a surge of indignation. This woman knew nothing about her, yet was trying to buy the land her mother had loved, the land that was her birthright. "I'm not interested in selling," she said firmly. Victoria's smile faltered. "You haven't even seen the offer." "I don't need to. This land belonged to my mother. It's not for sale." Andrew looked uncomfortable. "Perhaps we should schedule another time to discuss." "There's nothing to discuss," Mateus interjected. "Alana has made her decision. And even if she hadn't, I would never allow Harrington Development to build a hotel on Santa Aurora property." Victoria's facade cracked. "You're being foolish. Daddy's offer is more than generous." "It's not about money," Mateus replied. "It's about respect. For the land and the people connected to it. People like her," Victoria sneered, gesturing toward Alana. "A girl who showed up with nothing but a cat and a sob story. You don't owe her anything, Mateus." "That's where you're wrong," he said quietly. "Santa Aurora owes its existence to both our families, mine and Alana's. This place is as much her legacy as it is mine." Victoria's eyes narrowed dangerously. "So that's how it is. You're choosing her. I'm choosing what's right for Santa Aurora. They're the same thing in your mind, aren't they?" Victoria grabbed her purse from the car. "You'll regret this, Mateus. When the bank comes calling about those loans, remember I tried to help you." She turned to Andrew. "We're leaving." As the Mercedes disappeared down the drive, Alana turned to Mateus. "What did she mean about loans?" He sighed, suddenly looking tired. The farm has some financial challenges. My uncle left significant debt and last year's drought hit us hard. I've been trying to modernize operations, but it requires investment. Is Santa Aurora in danger? Not immediately. But we need a good harvest this year and the festival to bring in additional revenue. He managed to smile. Nothing for you to worry about. But Alana was already thinking, her mind racing with possibilities. The orchard, she said suddenly. These apple trees, they're heritage varieties, aren't they? Surprised by the change, in topic, Mateus nodded. Some of the oldest in the county, why? And the honey from your hives is raw and unfiltered. Yes, we use traditional methods. Mateus, these are premium products. Specialty stores in the city pay top dollar for organic heritage foods. Her excitement grew as the idea took shape. My candies won 3 regional awards. People drove hours to buy them specifically. With ingredients from Santa Aurora, these apples, your honey, your berries, we could create a whole line of artisanal sweets. He stared at her, a slow smile spreading across his face. You're serious? Completely. We could launch at the Harvest Festival, then set up online sales. I still have all my contacts in the specialty food market. For the first time since they'd met, Mateus laughed with genuine joy. He took her hands in his. Alana Parker, you are remarkable. The warmth of his touch sent a shiver through her. Standing there in front of her mother's cottage, surrounded by trees heavy with fruit, Alana felt something shift inside her, like a piece of herself sliding into place. We should get back, she said softly, not pulling her hands away. There's a lot to do if we're going to be ready for the festival. He nodded, reluctantly releasing her hands. As they walked back toward the main farm, Mateus asked, Have you decided what you'll do about the cottage? I'm going to sign the papers, Alana replied. It's mine. It's always been mine, even when I didn't know it existed. And after the festival, will you stay at Santa Aurora? She looked at him, this man who had become so important to her in such a short time. I'm still figuring that out. It wasn't the answer he wanted, she could tell, but it was honest. Her heart was pulling her toward this place, toward him. Yet, caution born from past losses held her back. The next 2 weeks passed in a flurry of activity. Alana divided her time between farm work and developing recipes in the main house kitchen. She and Mateus settled into a comfortable routine, him handling farm operations while she created the product line they were calling Sweet Aurora. Each evening, they would meet to taste her latest creations and discuss marketing plans. Those hours became precious to Alana, sitting across the kitchen island from Mateus, watching his face light up as he sampled her honey lavender caramels or apple cider truffles. Sometimes their fingers would brush as they passed samples back and forth. Sometimes their eyes would lock for moments that stretched into sweet tension, but neither crossed the invisible line they'd established, not while so much remained uncertain. Meanwhile, Alana spent her free afternoons at the cottage, cleaning and making small repairs. Rosa had given her a box of her mother's things that had been stored in the farmhouse attic: photos, letters, a journal. Through these treasures, Alana began to know the woman who had given her life. She learned that her mother had been artistic and kind, beloved by everyone at Santa Aurora, that she had fallen in love with William Parker almost instantly, despite their different backgrounds, that she had planted each tree in the orchard with specific dreams for their daughter's future. An almond tree for wisdom, she had written in her journal, plum for perseverance, apple for abundance and love. These discoveries healed something in Alana, not just the loss of her mother, but the anger she'd carried toward her father. Reading. Between the lines of her mother's journal, she began to understand how devastating Maria's death must have been for him. 3 days before the Harvest Festival, Alana was working late in the kitchen when Mateus entered, holding a stack of mail. You've got something, he said, handing her an envelope with her name scrawled across the front. It was delivered to the main house. Alana recognized the handwriting immediately. Eleanor, one of her former employees from Sweet Memories. She tore it open eagerly. Inside was a newspaper clipping about the candy shop fire, along with a short note. Thought you should know. Fire investigator ruled it electrical, but rumor is the landlord had been skimping on repairs despite multiple complaints. Some tenants are filing suit. Call me if you want in. Miss you. Eleanor. Good news? Matthias asked, noticing her expression. Maybe, Alana replied, showing him the note. If there's a case against the landlord, I might be able to recover some of what I lost. That would be good, right? Yes, but... She hesitated. But what? If I got a settlement, I could rebuild the shop in the city. Start over. The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Matthias's face remained carefully neutral. Is that what you want? A month ago, I would have said yes, without hesitation. She folded the note carefully. Now, I'm not so sure. What's changed? She met his gaze. Everything. The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken feelings. Matthias took a step closer. Alana, he began, his voice low and intense. I need to tell you something. These past weeks with you have been... The kitchen door swung open as Rosa bustled in with armfuls of fresh herbs. Look what I found growing wild near the creek. Perfect for those tea blends you wanted to try. The spell broken, Matthias stepped back. I should check on the festival preparations. We'll talk later. Alana nodded, watching him go with a mixture of disappointment and relief. Whatever he had been about to say would have changed things between them. She wasn't sure she was ready. That night, unable to sleep, Alana walked to the cottage under a full moon. The harvested fields glowed silver in the moonlight, and the orchard trees cast lace-like shadows across the cottage walls. Standing in the doorway of what had briefly been her first home, Alana finally admitted the truth to herself. She was falling in love with Matthias Cordero. Not just with his kindness or his passion for Santa Aurora, but with the man himself, his integrity, his quiet strength, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. More than that, she was falling in love with this land, with the rhythm of farm life, with the connection to her past she'd never known existed. But love had brought her pain before. Everyone she'd ever loved had left her. Her mother through death, her father through abandonment, even her carefully built business through disaster. Could she risk her heart again? Could she truly believe that this time happiness might last, as, if in answer, a warm breeze stirred the apple trees, sending the scent of ripened fruit swirling around her? In that moment, Alana felt her mother's presence more strongly than ever before. I'm scared, she whispered to the night air. What if I choose wrong? What if I lose everything again? No answer came, of course. But as she looked across the moonlit fields toward the lights of the main farmhouse, Alana knew one thing with certainty. Whatever choice she made, it would be hers alone. Not driven by fear or obligation, but by the truth in her own heart. The Kai Harvest Festival was in 2 days. After that, she would have to decide, return to the life she'd lost, or embrace the one that had been waiting for her all along. The morning of the Harvest Festival dawned clear and bright. Santa Aurora buzzed with activity as workers set up booths and strung lights between trees. Local vendors began arriving with their wares, handmade crafts, fresh produce, and homemade foods. In the main house kitchen, Alana carefully arranged her creations on display trays. The Sweet Aurora collection looked even more beautiful than she had imagined. Honey caramels wrapped in wax paper, apple cider truffles nestled in tiny boxes, berry preserves in glass jars tied with twine. Rosa watched approvingly. Your mother would be so proud, she said, adjusting one of the display signs. She always said you'd make something special of yourself. I wish I could remember her, Alana replied, carefully positioning the last tray. But being here, in the place she loved, it's like getting to know her all over again. The door swung open as Matthias entered, dressed in a blue button-down shirt that brought out the warmth in his eyes. He stopped short at the sight of the completed display. Alana, he breathed. This is incredible. She felt a blush warm her cheeks. You think people will like them? They'll love them. He moved closer, examining the different products. You've created something amazing here. We did, she corrected. These are Santa Aurora ingredients. Your honey, your fruit. Our ingredients, he said softly. Their eyes met, and the simple word, "our," hung in the air between them, weighted with possibility. The moment was broken by Joe poking his head through the door. "Boss, the sound system's acting up, and the first guests are starting to arrive. I'll be right there." Matthias turned back to Alana. "Will you be okay setting up the booth?" "Go," she said with a smile. "I've got this." As Matthias hurried away, Rosa gave Alana a knowing look. "That boy is sweet on you. Has been since the day you arrived." "Rosa?" Alana protested, though her heart fluttered at the words. "I've known that boy since he was knee-high to a grasshopper," Rosa continued, undeterred. "Never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." Before Alana could respond, Elena and two other former employees from Sweet Memories burst into the kitchen. "Surprise!" they shouted in unison. Alana gasped, running to embrace them. "What are you all doing here?" "You think we'd miss your big comeback?" Elena said, hugging her tight. "Father Michael told us where to find you." For the next hour, Alana and her friends caught up as they set up the Sweet Aurora booth under a large oak tree. The festival grounds quickly filled with visitors, families with children, couples holding hands, groups of friends laughing together. As the morning wore on, word spread about the treats at the Sweet Aurora booth. A line formed as people eagerly purchased Alana's creations, many buying multiple items after sampling just one. Several specialty food store owners asked about wholesale options, and a food blogger promised to feature Sweet Aurora in an upcoming article. By mid-afternoon, they had nearly sold out. Elena manned the booth, while Alana went to make another batch of caramels in the main house. As she stirred honey into the bubbling sugar mixture, she heard raised voices from Matthias's office. "You can't be serious." It was Victoria's voice, sharp with anger. "After everything my father has done for your family." "I appreciate Mr. Harrington's past support," Matthias replied, his tone controlled but firm. "But my decision is final. Santa. Aurora is not for sale, not in whole, not in part. This is because of her, isn't it?" Victoria's voice dripped with disdain. "That candy girl who showed up out of nowhere. This is about what's right for the farm and the people who depend on it. People are depending on this deal too, Matthias. My father's investors, the development company. I'm sorry if you made promises you can't keep, but Santa Aurora has been a working farm for generations, and it's going to stay that way." Alana backed away from the door, not wanting to eavesdrop further. But her heart swelled at Matthias's words. He was fighting for Santa Aurora, for the land they both loved. The caramels finished, Alana returned to the festival. The afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the celebration. Children ran between booths, faces sticky with treats. A local band played folk music from a small stage, and couples swayed together on an improvised dance floor. As Alana approached the Sweet Aurora booth, she spotted a familiar face in the crowd. James Thornton, her father's lawyer. He stood examining a jar of apple butter, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Mr. Thornton," she greeted him. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Miss Parker," he nodded. "I was in the area finalizing some paperwork for another client. Thought I'd stop by to see how you're settling in." He gestured to the nearly empty display. "Successfully, it appears." "Yes," she agreed, looking around at the festival. "It's been a good day." "Have you made a decision about the property?" he asked. "I'll need to file the deed transfer if you're accepting the inheritance." "I have," Alana said, the certainty in her voice surprising even her. "I'm accepting it. This land was my mother's dream for me." "I can't walk away from that." Thornton nodded approvingly. "I'll prepare the final paperwork. Also," he hesitated, "there's something else you should know. Your father's insurance policy, it wasn't much, but there's a payout of $30,000 coming to you as his beneficiary." Alana's breath caught. "I had no idea. He set it up years ago, never changed the beneficiary even after." Thornton trailed off. "The check should arrive next week. I took the liberty of having it sent here. $30,000, not a fortune, but enough to invest in Sweet Aurora, enough to begin building something real." As Thornton walked away, Alana stood motionless, overwhelmed by how quickly her life had changed. 1 month ago, she'd lost everything. Now she had land, a promising business, and the beginnings of a new life. But what about her heart? As the sun began to set, lanterns illuminated the festival grounds. Alana had just finished delivering the last batch of caramels when she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to find Mateus, his face serious. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Somewhere quiet?" She nodded, following him away from the crowds to a small garden behind the main house. They sat on a bench surrounded by late-blooming flowers. The festival. Music, a distant melody. "I saw Victoria earlier," Alana said, breaking the silence. She didn't look happy. Mateus sighed. "Harrington Development made a final offer for Santa Aurora. I turned it down." "That must have been a difficult decision." "Actually, it wasn't." He turned to face her. "Santa Aurora isn't just land and buildings to me. It's a home, a legacy, something worth fighting for." "I understand that now," Alana said softly. "I feel the same way about my portion." "I know." He took a deep breath. "That's actually why I wanted to talk to you. I have a proposal." Her heart skipped. "A proposal?" "A business proposal," he clarified quickly, though color rose in his cheeks. "Sweet Aurora is a success. Everyone can see that. With your skills and our ingredients, we could build something special together. You want to continue the partnership?" "I want more than that." His eyes held hers intently. "I want to expand it. Use part of your orchard land to grow more heritage fruit varieties. Renovate the cottage to include a proper kitchen for production. Create a year-round business, not just seasonal." Alana's mind raced with possibilities. "We could offer tours, tasting—" "Exactly. Farm-to-table experiences." His enthusiasm matched hers. "Santa Aurora would still be a working farm, but with a new dimension, one that honors both our families' legacies." "It sounds perfect," Alana admitted. But what? "I got a call from Elena yesterday. The lawsuit against my former landlord is moving forward. If it succeeds, I could rebuild sweet memories in the city." Mateus's face fell slightly, though he tried to hide it. "I see. And is that what you want?" The question hung between them, about more than just business plans. Alana looked out at the festival lights twinkling in the distance, at the fields beyond where she'd found healing, at the man beside her who'd shown her what it meant to belong somewhere. "When I first came here," she said slowly, "I was broken. I'd lost everything I thought mattered, my business, my home, my sense of purpose. I took this job because I had nowhere else to go." "And now?" he asked quietly. "Now I know the truth." She turned to meet his gaze. "I didn't lose everything. I was just being guided back to where I was always meant to be." Hope flickered in Mateus's eyes. "And where is that?" "Here," she said simply. "Santa Aurora. The land that was always mine, even when I didn't know it existed." He reached for her hand, his touch warm and steady. "Does that mean you'll stay? Work with me to build something new?" "Yes to the business partnership," Alana said, her voice trembling slightly. "But there's something else we need to talk about." "What's that?" "Us." The word fell between them like a stone in still water, ripples of meaning expanding outward. "This isn't just about business for me, Mateus, and I don't think it is for you either." His fingers tightened around hers. "No," he admitted. "It's not." "I'm falling in love with you," she said, the words rushing out before courage failed her. "And it terrifies me because everyone I've ever loved has left me. But I can't keep running from what I feel." For a heartbeat, Mateus sat perfectly still. Then slowly he raised his free hand to touch her cheek. "Alana Parker," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "I fell in love with you the day I saw you kneeling in mud, saving those seedlings after the storm. Not because you were good at it, but because you cared so deeply." Tears welled in Alana's eyes. "I'm not perfect. I'm still healing, still figuring out who I am." "I don't want perfect," he murmured, leaning closer. "I want real. I want you exactly as you are." When their lips finally met, it felt like coming home. All the uncertainty, all the fear that had held Alana back seemed to dissolve in the warmth of his embrace. This was right. This was where she belonged. As they pulled apart, breathless and smiling, a burst of applause erupted from the festival. The band had finished their final song, and fireworks began to light the night sky, painting Santa Aurora in brilliant colors. "Perfect timing," Mateus laughed, his arm still around her waist. "Should we go back?" Alana asked, reluctant to leave. Their sanctuary in a minute. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. First, there's something I need to show you. Taking her hand, he led her to his office in the main house. From his desk drawer, he removed an old photograph in a silver frame. I found this in my aunt's things, he explained, handing it to her. The photo showed two couples standing in front of Santa Aurora's main house, a younger Roberto and Maria Cordero, alongside William Parker, and a beautiful dark-haired woman who could only be Alana's mother. All four were smiling, arms around each other like family. They were friends, Alana whispered, tracing her mother's face with a fingertip. Real friends. More than that, Mateus said. According to Rosa, they were, like family. Your father and my uncle built this place together. Your mother and my aunt made it a home. He met her eyes. I think they'd be happy to see it come full circle with us. A new generation, Alana agreed, honoring what they began. They returned to the festival hand in hand, no longer hiding what they felt for each other. As midnight approached, the last visitors departed, and the workers began cleaning up. Alana and Mateus stood at the edge of the fields, looking out over Santa Aurora bathed in moonlight. We should get some rest, he said, though he made no move to leave. Tomorrow we can start planning the future of Sweet Aurora properly. I have a better idea, Alana replied. Let's go to the cottage. I want to show you something. The orchard was quiet as they walked the familiar path, fallen apples perfuming the night air. When they reached the cottage, Alana led him inside to the bedroom, with the mural. My mother painted this for me before I was born, she explained, pointing to the garden scene. But I only noticed this part today. Hidden among the painted flowers were tiny letters, almost invisible unless you knew to look for them. Home is where love grows. All these years, Alana said, her voice thick with emotion, I've been searching for something I couldn't name. A place to belong. A love that wouldn't leave. Mateus wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. And now? She turned in his embrace to face him. Now, I've found both. As they held each other in the cottage that had waited so long for her return, Alana felt a profound sense of rightness settle in her soul. The journey had been painful, loss and grief, secrets and revelations, but it had led her exactly where she needed to be. I love you, Mateus Cordero, she whispered against his lips, and I love you, Alana Parker. His eyes held a promise as he added, welcome home. 6 months later, Santa Aurora Farm was transformed. The Harvest Festival had been just the beginning. Sweet Aurora products now shipped to specialty stores across the country, and the renovated cottage served as both production kitchen and weekend tasting room for visitors. The orchard bloomed with new life. Heritage varieties Alana had sourced from agricultural preservationists, alongside the original trees her mother had planted. Mateus had used innovative farming techniques to make the rest of Santa Aurora more productive than ever, paying off the last of his uncle's debts. On a warm, spring evening, Alana stood in the cottage doorway watching the sunset paint the land in shades of gold. Inside, the table was set for a special dinner, their first anniversary of meeting. Mateus appeared at the edge of the orchard, carrying something in his hands. As he drew closer, she saw it was a small apple tree sapling, roots carefully wrapped. What's this? She asked as he reached her. A new tradition, he replied. I thought we could plant it together. They chose a spot near the cottage where the morning sun would warm it. Together they dug the hole, placed the sapling, and packed soil around its tender roots. When they finished, Mateus pulled something small from his pocket. There's one more thing, he said, suddenly nervous. He opened his palm to reveal a simple ring with a small diamond. This was my grandmother's. I had it resized. Alana's breath caught as he knelt before her. There in the soil they both loved. Alana Parker, he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. You came to Santa Aurora broken, and so was I in ways I didn't even recognize. Together, we've healed each other and this land. He held up the ring. Will you marry me, make this place our home for good? With tears streaming down her face, Alana nodded. Yes, she whispered. 1,000 times, yes. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, the setting sun cast long shadows across the orchard. In that golden light, Alana could almost see the figures of those who had loved this land before them, her mother and father, Roberto and Maria, watching with approval as a new chapter began. "How you know?" Matthias said as they walked hand in hand back to the cottage. "We never decided what variety of apple that sapling is." Alana smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. "It's a new variety," she said. "We'll call it Coming Home." Inside, the cottage that had waited so long for her return, they celebrated their past, their present, and the future stretching before them, as bright and promising as the land that had always been hers. The next morning, Alana stood at the cottage window, watching Matthias talk with workers in the field. The ring on her finger caught the sunlight, sending prisms dancing across the wall. Pepper rubbed against her legs, purring contentedly. So much had changed since they'd arrived at Santa Aurora, with nothing but each other and a broken heart. "We made it, buddy," she whispered to the cat. "We're home." Outside, Matthias looked up as if sensing her gaze. He smiled and raised his hand in greeting, just as he had that first day when she'd stood uncertain at the edge of a new beginning. This time, Alana didn't just raise her hand in return. She stepped outside into the sunshine and walked across the field to meet him, confident and sure of where she belonged. As they embraced in the middle of the blooming orchard, surrounded by the land that had brought them together, Alana knew, with absolute certainty, she had lost everything only to find what she truly needed: a place to belong, a purpose to fulfill, and a love that, like the land itself, would endure through all seasons. The end.